Hi, welcome. My name is Cheri Hunt. We are here to talk about alcohol inks. Woohoo! One of my favorites. And you just have to know that when you're going into alcohol inks that you cannot control it. Just have fun with the process and really get lost in the exploration and the playfulness of alcohol inks. Alcohol inks are a little product like this. They come in little bottles, usually 3 in a pack. I just found these. They come in a little 8-pack with different colors. I have noticed that the alcohol ink marketing might put in colors that you might not like. This is a seasonal color around fall. So you might have to buy 2 packs instead of just 1 pack. If you're just playing and exploring, 1 pack will do. But if you want to get to the primary colors, I know some of the stores do sell them individually, so you can do that. So you're going to need your alcohol inks. You're also going to need rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol is what manipulates the alcohol ink, and it is 91%. This one's actually 99. Either 91% is what you want, or 75% and higher. I do like working with the alcohol that's 91%. It just works a little bit better. You could also use hand sanitizer to manipulate it, and I'll show some of the art what that looks like. We are going to have so much fun today. I want you guys just to really look at what I'm doing, and then later today, there's always time you can run out and go and get yourself some supplies. I use Yupo paper. Yupo paper is a watercolor paper, YUPO. It comes in medium. There's 3 different sizes of it. I do like the medium. It's an opaque white. You can use vellum with your alcohol inks. You can use photo paper. And they comes in a nice pack. You can even get it at the dollar store, pretty cheap right now. The problem with the photo paper is that it is paperback, so if I'm using alcohol inks on it, it will absorb through, but it's really awesome if you do photo paper and make handmade cards. So I'll show you what it actually looks like there. It is hard to move it around. With Yupo paper, it is plastic paper, so it'll just kind of move and kind of go wherever it wants. So that's a really awesome thing. Yupo paper is doing shapes now, so if you want to make a mandala, they have round different shapes. You can always cut your Yupo paper to make it the size you want, but having it come in round and a perfect circle is also great for my mandala classes. They also have little pieces like this, which is really nice because it's just like an artist trading card. So you can make some, write a little note on it, a little incentive, and give it to a friend, which is great. You can use alcohol inks on tiles. These are some examples of some on some tiles that was just actually blown with a straw and then used with a Q-tip around it. Here's one that's alcohol inks with the black Sharpie is the black area. And then I used a little white gel pen. Everything that I'm talking about, your Sharpies, your gel pen, I will go over that at the end. Those are things that you would want to embellish, or you can embellish your tiles with. You can use stencils on your tiles. So if I get a little base to it, look at that, looks like fireworks. Or just even that one too, there's a little bit of subtle idea of the stencil on that one. I love using alcohol inks and then printing real flowers with acrylic paint. So this is one that has an actual flower that I put acrylic paint after I did my alcohol ink background, and then I did a white nice flower on top, and I added a little bit of black for some more lines, but that's really cool, and you could even see some really cool details in that. This is one more of a tile that's really just, it was nicely done. I love the colors. And the back of it, you could actually use just little felt corners. You can put cork on it and make it into a trivet or an actual coaster that you can use. If you are going to use it as a coaster, you'll want a clear polyurethane to spray on top of it. And make sure that when you are spraying it, it is dry and it's not too humid or muggy out. And then I'm going to be probably about 12 to 14 inches above my tile, putting about 3 coats in between each coat. I want it to dry completely. Okay. All right, there are so many books out right now about alcohol inks and the creations you could make. This is one that I saw. It's 20 projects for alcohol inks, and it's just really great how-to, step-by-step. You can go on Pinterest, you can go on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of different ways of getting the how-tos, and if you miss something today, you can always look up, you know, some different things at the library. They have great books there too. So here's some things I was talking about. The mandala paper. This is just alcohol inks. I then took a black Sharpie marker and made it into a flower shape. I added some stencils on this one and just some really cool, I love this center that I did with a straw. This one here is alcohol inks, and I added some gel pens to it afterwards. I did leave a little white, which is so unlike me, but I did just do a little bit of pointillism, little dots, matching the color that's real nearby it. So it just kind of pulls it all together as a composition. When I was in the kitchen, my mom always had cheesecloth. So I did a little cheesecloth, putting that on and then just dabbing with a makeup triangle. Makeup triangles are your friends. I don't wear much makeup, but I get them for alcohol inks. And if you put your cheesecloth down, cheesecloth is great because it comes in a nice package where it's almost like gauze. You can cut it up and use it the size you need and keep using it. But you just take your alcohol ink and powder it on there and really get some good centers for your flowers. Just awesome texture. Here's a little one that would be nice if it's got a stencil in it. I used a little micron pen on there. Even it's got cheesecloth. It's got so many textures. And if you start to look at these, you see little things appear, like here's a little face right here. So you can really have fun with it after it dries. Turn your paper around, see your little sea creatures. See, now it looks like a little chimpanzee, and pull those out with your pens. This is one that I was talking about, hand sanitizer, which we have quite a bit of right now. So nice to manipulate your alcohol inks with the hand sanitizer. They start to look like sea creatures when you use the hand sanitizer, and it's really awesome to print using hand sanitizer. So I'll show you a little bit of that. This is also, I added a little black with my gel pen. Those are my two best friends. My black pen. Here I did my black pen as the background. And this is actually just blows that I'm going to show you with a straw. Then I took the alcohol, the clear alcohol, and I took it on a paintbrush and I just removed some of the color, adding some swirls, if I have a little bit of alcohol on my brush here, I pulled that green out and I started to make swirls. I just love the idea of the swirl, and the journey that we're on is really just a great symbol. So I am going to show you a couple things that a lot of people say, you know, where you get inspiration. I got this card. This is a really great inspiration. So if I'm painting with my alcohol ink, this is a really simple, I said it's hard to control. So maybe after a couple of practices with it, you might be able to use it as watercolor, which I'll show you too. This one too was just a card, but look at how lovely that is. This is pretty easy, just getting your color on and then adding a little pen vase and then your butterflies with the antenna. Love that. So inspirations all around. You can get it in your cards, make your own cards. I'm going to just show you a couple more examples and then we are going to get started on the how-tos. So this is one where I said adding more black. So I made a lot of different colors with the color blotches just blowing. And then, like I said, I sat with it for a little bit and I started kind of pulling out some different flowers. This looks like a poppy. So there's a lot of things that you can do just with your pen to really kind of finish it off. I used the outsides and just filled it up with some leaves. So it really looks like I've got an aerial view of a nice bouquet of flowers. This one is same thing, just with the blowing of the flowers, and I love my black pen drawing into it. So you can always let these dry and then come back later to it. This is again just your blowing, and then I added some little neurographic lines. If you know my neurographic stuff, this is just adding some black lines to it and kind of creating a vase of flowers or even just a bouquet. This one is just painting with watercolor or the alcohol inks like watercolor. So using a vessel to hold your alcohol in and using your alcohol in a little palette or just a little surface and going in and adding really fine little tendrils and leaves and all that. These are lavender, lupine, whatever you want it to be, liatris, and it is just taking my paintbrush and repeating mark making and really getting this nice kind of you know, flower kind of structure. So fun. It's crazy what you can do. I'm gonna get started. I know if you go to you know, Goodwill, they have a great craft area. You can get stencils. You can always find doilies. The thing with doilies or little paper doilies is that you want the holes to be a little bit bigger. You're not going to be able to see your texture when you do this. So if I've got a machine at home, like a cry cut machine, I can make my own spider webs. That's just a little bit bigger space. So that one's gonna work out well. So when you're looking for texture, looking for different things, make sure your space in between is gonna be a little bit bigger. Like this is a little bit bigger. That might be a little small for that little guy, but it's still gonna be okay. And then stencils like this. Oh my gosh, I love all of this stuff. So let's get started. I'm gonna show you just with alcohol inks on just a piece of Yupo. It comes in 8 by 12. I've cut it into a small piece just for some saving space. There are a lot of things at the store too that are like, buy me, I work with your alcohol inks. I don't know if you really have to do all that. You know, do with what you have at home. If you've got straws, if you hit you know, Starbucks in the morning, get an extra straw for your alcohol inks at home. You know, just have straws, have skewers, a paintbrush in different sizes, Q-tips. Like I said, makeup squares. You can have cotton little rounds, and these are awesome because they come with just a little bit of a texture. Paper towels. I want you to search for paper towels that have the white ones, but it might have circles or spirals. I know some of them have squares and triangles. So that's what we're going to look for. Just texture that, you know, you're already going to have at home. This is also one of the things that says, buy me, buy me. It's okay. You know, you've got to keep changing the felt. This is if I'm going to do a stencil, I'm going to get my color and rubbing alcohol on there, and I'm going to put my stencil down. But like I said, this works just as great. They come in like 180 little wedges, so a lot affordable, and you might already have them at home. So take a look. You're going to need a little spray bottle. This is just with alcohol. And then if you're gonna do the rubbing alcohol, not by painting like a watercolor, you're gonna definitely need a little bottle. These bottles usually have a pretty small hole. Even though it's so small, the alcohol tends to come out very fast. So you wanna just do a little drop. Less is more with your alcohol. Okay, so I am going to get my bottles open. I usually have all my bottles open and I leave the tops off. By the time I was to got my alcohol ink down on my paper, took my tops off, I would get my top back on, everything would be dried. So at this project, I'm just keeping all my caps off. And it is nice to, at the end, before you put your caps on, to wipe it off. You can just take a little alcohol wipe and kind of wipe that. If you don't, and you have neuropathy or anything, losing strength with arthritis in your hands, they do get a little sticky. So just putting them under the hot water, if you didn't get a chance, look at that one, see it's got some ink on it. I'm just gonna run it under a hot sink, under hot water, and it will come off just like that. It'll loosen up perfectly. So I'm just gonna get a couple colors to show you, and we're gonna get started. This is so great to have you here. It's a kind of a gray day. It's perfect for a little creativeness, and we're good. So I'm gonna get my color on. I'm just gonna use a little bit of this. They also come out fast by using alcohol inks. I can use a couple different colors at the same time. If I wanted to move this, I'm gonna add just a little bit of rubbing alcohol in the center. I take my straw perpendicular with my paper very close. And I tend to blow it 2 or 3 times just because I want to let this outside dry. If I don't, I might have a little bit darker edges, which is also fine too. If I want to, I can let that center dry. The purples and the blues, usually you'll see your pinks come through. Let's see, I'm gonna do a little bit of a center here. I can let that be. I can just watch that a little bit. The idea of watching these is really fun. I can let that just sit for a minute, or I can take a little bit of this now that it's dried a little bit. And I love that. So if you look at that, it's kind of a fun thing that happens, how it almost looks like little pieces of corn, all these darker areas. Spit's gonna come through. The spit it adds just a loveliness to the paper. I'm gonna add just this pink again and kind of bring back that pink on my edges. So I can blow it, but look I didn't add any alcohol to that. And I can always add it after it dries, and it will still move because it has a lot of color on there. Woo, look at that. Dahlias, here I come. So look at that. It almost looks like a artichoke heart, or ooh la la. I got chills on that one. You guys, that was good. Love that. So I can take a little bit of yellow, and I'm just gonna let that sit. Now the idea of doing any, see, now if I make it bigger than, or put too much, it might go into that. It might bleed a little bit and make a little bit of orange color. If I want to, I can do one more layer. I just get so excited. I don't want to do too much though. Woo! So that kind of came out, look at that, it just came out a little bit farther, right? So just think when I add my gel pen to that, I can pull out all of these little things and it will look like layer and layer. I'm gonna let that sit for a minute. Now the idea of doing another flower next to it, that's important to not be so close to this one. If you really like this edge and this happens to kind of go into it, you might just want to just kind of breathe through that, because it's hard to know how far it's going to go. Maybe if I want to blow this way with it, I can instead of straight on, but I like the straight on stuff. So I'm going to do it again. So good. A little bit of the pink, see what happens. Ooh, I might not even do anything to that one. So you can see this blue part right here, that's just a little bit of spit that came through. And if any of you have a hard time breathing with some lung issues or just asthma, anything going on right now, even just with the allergies, you can always cut this. It's not gonna be that much to make you too winded, okay? I don't want you to get dizzy using the straw, so you can always cut it down. I'm gonna just grab something here really quick. All right. I love how that kind of created really kind of dark and everything. So I'm gonna just let that sit a minute. We can always go back to that. I'm gonna show you how to paint with it and kind of remove some of your color. It's always nice to have some little plastic things, disposable, recyclables are great. Be careful with your meat trays because the alcohol inks might melt it a little bit. So if you have any of these little cups at home, any Dixie cup might not be good because if it's not waxed, it'll saturate through. So make sure you have a little plastic. These are nice to have. Right now I just have a bowl of my alcohol, and I'm going to use that just with a nice brush. I can even dip a straw into and just kind of get some circles that way. I love that, just getting a nice little circle if I wanted to do a center. The thing is too, anytime I go into my alcohol, I've got a lot on there, right? So I want to make sure I have maybe just a little paper towel to always do some dabbing. And the best thing about your paper towels is that when you do your dabbing, look at that. So I picked this up. This is from when I've pressed with it. So I tend to use the same one, and look at that. I could almost even use this as a watercolor piece. I can use it for collage. So, you know, kind of save this, but this itself looks like a beautiful little tie-dye lily pad, and I love that. So anything that I do, you know, you can always save them, which is nice. All right, so I'm gonna let this sit for a little bit. I'm going to show you just painting just with my paintbrush, kind of removing some of this color. I'm just taking a little bit off, and I'm gonna just do some little spirals. If I want to add some little shapes. Spirals are my favorite line. I love the idea of starting in the middle, kind of wrapping around and letting things go, right? So you can use this almost like in a little intention. Think about something you've got going on and just kind of go through that, breathing always when we do this. If the alcohol bothers you, you know, I would not wear a mask because that will keep the smell in, but definitely make sure that you're well ventilated with this. The higher the percentage of alcohol, it might be a little bit much for that. So just have a fan, windows open, and really make sure that you are ventilated. So here I've got that really nice, and like I said, we're going to take a gel pen to that in a little bit and kind of bring that out a little bit. So I talked about doing some stencils. So I'm going to get a little bit of color on my, and you just need a little bit. And the thing with alcohol inks is that I can let this dry, and then when I come back to it, I can add a little bit of rubbing alcohol and it kind of just reactivates it. So just like watercolor, you can let it dry and come back to it. So if you have a palette or anything like that and you need to go let the dog out, take the dog for a walk, you can always come back and do that. So I talked about this little Buy Me. It's a lovely little thing by Jim Holtz. He's an awesome person to watch on YouTube. His stuff is great. I can do this and I can start dabbing that. The only thing with this is that it is a hard surface that I'm working on, and this is a black. So if I do this, I don't really get that give. So I would say put a magazine under this so I get just a little bit, and it will help me get into all of the little nooks and crannies. I am gonna use just a makeup sponge for this, and it's really a little bit easier. You can see I can go even over my flower. And like I said, if it dries a little bit, I can always get a little bit of alcohol and get that going again. It dries pretty quick because it's alcohol, so you just have to kind of work with it. I'm keeping my stencil on the paper or my hand on the stencil at the same time rather than lifting it because I don't want this to move. Okay, so instead of doing leaves around this, I'm gonna just have this stencil. It's almost like it's in a garden. And then I'm gonna give myself a drum roll, please. I'll lift this off and look at it, created a really awesome background. So this looks like it's in the background. This is in the foreground. Now I can start adding a little bit of leaves. I could even go into that. Sharpie markers are alcohol based. So if at any time I wanna add some color to it, I can go in and add some little, more berries to this. I can do a little bit of green in here, and if I don't like my Sharpie marker, I can always take my paintbrush and kind of pull up, even with your Sharpie marker. You can use alcohol and Sharpie marker. Woo! Did you know that? Isn't that so fun? All right, my Sharpie markers come in a 2-pack. You can go to the grocery store and get your bananas, your ground beef for tacos, and your Sharpie markers. Always include them because they do dry out. I love the 2-packs. This is just your fine line. You can always get a metallics afterwards when I'm embellishing with my jelly pen that I keep talking about. It's a jelly roll pen, it's white. You could do that on top, and then also your metallics, which is really nice, nice little embellishment to add little polka dots or something. And then I always like the ultra fine point. So these 2 sizes are really great just for the black. Okay, like I said, you could use colors though. If you've got those at home and you don't have any alcohol inks, you can start to play with that. So this is just adding your stencil. I talked about photo paper. This is a really awesome one. This background is actually hand sanitizer. And then I did this little creature with just black alcohol ink, and I love it. It's actually one of my favorite ones I've ever made. And I like it so much using the photo paper because they're already cut for you. So if I go out and get some white cards from the dollar store, I can glue this on, maybe with a little piece of paper underneath just to kind of make it look nice. I can glue back black paper down on a white card and then glue this down. Make sure you sign your name, even in a white pen. I could do it in a dark color, and I've got a really great card to send out to thank someone, a birthday, whatever that is. So that's really a fun thing. I'm gonna show you a tile. how you can do a tile. Some of them come with a little residue, so you can just wipe it off with a little soap and water. You can hit it with a little bit of a sponge, just kind of wet a sponge. I'm just wiping it to get the dust off from the cotton rounds. So I can use this alcohol ink. I could pretend I'm Georgie O'Keeffe and do a flower that starts in the corner and work my way out. I can start in the middle. I can start just blobbing and kind of watching it. The cool thing with tiles is that you can kind of move them around and shift the color, which is really fun. So let's just try a couple different ways. Again, I'm going to use alcohol ink. I'm going to use the alcohol, and I'm going to take my straw again. A lot of places aren't using straws anymore. Like Starbucks, I get a green tea every day and they say, would you like a straw? I don't use my straw, but yes, I would. Thank you so much for my alcohol inks. So, and you could just keep using it. You don't have to get a new one every day. So there's that. It moved quite well because it is on the tile. If I blow it, doesn't go so well. So I might have to do a little bit of this. Look at that. Come on. Aren't you excited? It's so awful I can't hear you scream, because I think some of you might be, because that was really good. So anytime you have the slippery, the glossy, and look at, they come in different, they come in different sizes. So I can use a big one. You can do a family project and get these at Habitat for Humanity for like 10 cents. You can just go to Home Depot and get some of them too. When I use my tiles, I always take a black marker and use it as an edge too, so it kind of finishes it off. If I wanted to and have a little bit more control, I might get a little bit of green on my, I gotta make some green on my tray right here, and I might start to just kind of paint a little bit of a background. But look at, I have a lot on there, and I said that I usually wipe off my brush, but I wanted to show you that it really kind of swallows up, right? It's alcohol, everything. So I might just kind of go into this, and but you can really see how it just moves on its own. So the idea is really not worried, like, I don't like it anymore. If you're doing it with a group and someone says, I don't like it anymore, switch and see what they can do with it. So I don't really kind of go for the oops, because there's always opportunities with any medium that you use. So any oops is an opportunity. It's a great way of changing our shifting our perspective, right? How can I change that? What did I do? Learn from your lesson and kind of do it next time. And a lot of people are like, I'm no good at this right after the 15 minutes. I've been doing this a long time. It takes practice, right? And just some people like the photo paper, some people like the tile. So you can get kind of a nice background with that. If it's just a little bit of too much blues and purples, I'm gonna wipe that out. And maybe I'm just gonna do, a little bit more, and look at, I'm just kind of getting that lightened, but I'm still got a lot of ink on there. So it almost actually now looks like petals that are doubling up from the other one. So it's kind of a cool thing. Woo, look at that. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I get so excited. There is some other things at Buy Me Alcohol Lift Ink. This is just an alcohol pad that I can dip a stencil into and then put it right onto my color that I just did, and it will take it away. So I've been using my paintbrush to remove color. This is just another thing. They tend to dry out a little bit, so you can always put some rubbing alcohol on there and not to worry. I talked about having Q-tips around. Q-tips, you can dip it into your alcohol. Again, really get a lot of it off. And you can do little polka dots. The idea that I love using these is that it just gives a really nice shade. It gives a little white, gives a little purple. It's just, and the blue and the purples really are dark, so getting a little bit more white in there is really nice, okay? And you can even go a little bit darker, and look at how that totally changed that center just doing that. I would then take a white pen and kind of pull some of my shapes out. You can do some little spiral centers. And if I have a lot of color, I can always bring back my white with my white gel pen. It's my best friend. So if I'm traveling, I take a Sharpie with me, a white gel pen, and a pad of paper, you know, to draw with. But these two are kind of, they kind of go with me everywhere. And it's nice. I can really kind of see all these little designs that I can add to. I can add some dots going around and really change that up a little bit. But it used to look like an artichoke heart, so I still want to get that those lines, even mimicking these lines. I don't have to do those, but my eye is going to follow, and I almost say that they're already done. So I don't have to do everything. I just wanted to do little bits and pieces of the white around, so like a couple odd places. Okay, I can even add some circle to it, and then add, you know, like a little background, and have some of them showing. It doesn't really show up, but I would do a little black to that, but you kind of get the idea with the gel pen. When you use your...
We have 2 questions that popped up.
Oh gosh, there's 2 questions? Yeah, I'll take a question.
Cheri, do you use gloves?
That's a really good question. If you are going through cancer or any, you know, have any kind of skin problems where it's a little bit dry, I would definitely use gloves. I don't use gloves because it's really hard. I'm tactile, so I like to feel it, and it's almost too hard for me if I don't. So if I do have gloves, I will cut off the fingers if I'm afraid, if I've got a dance to go to, I'm going to prom, right? I want to make sure that my nails, or if you have, you know, painted nails, I would probably wear gloves. It's a little bit harder with some mediums, but this is great because you're just, and it really probably will help you open up your caps if you have the gloves on. So you can wear gloves, and that's a great idea. Thanks for mentioning that. Some of the dye does not come off. So you can remove it with alcohol. It might, if I've got purple or blue, it's going to be with you. So this pink might be with me. It's a great dinner conversation. But if you were going through treatment, I would say wear gloves. Okay. And it is flammable. So just keep your, you know, smoking and all of that, whatever, cooking, anything away from you, and just have it on a table away from all that, because it does say flammable on here. And it does say, you know, the vapor, so just make sure that you're well ventilated. All right, did that answer your question okay? Perfect. And was there one more question?
There's one more question. Where did you say you got the round stencils?
The round stencils. So the round stencils I got at Joann's. They have them, and they have a lot of really good stencils, and so does Michael's. So if you go to the place where the stencils are, they're actually lined up, and you can kind of just thumb through them like it's hanging on a wall. So you can just go through them. There's a whole bunch of different really great ones. There is also, I'm trying to think, Stencil Girl is another one if you order stencils online. Stencil Girl is one of my favorite places to get stencils, but if you're shopping, you could go to Joann's or Michael's, and they have really nice ones. Okay. All right, perfect. I talked about using a straw for blowing. There's also this little tool. It's almost like a turkey baster. You could probably use a turkey baster. The thing with your turkey baster, it's going to be a little bigger hole. So I'm not sure, and a little bit bigger stem. So I'm not sure how that's going to work, but it might be fun to just, you know, kind of blow. And if you do have some, you know, breathing issues that might be harder for you, this is nice. I'm going to show you kind of what you get from this. It's not a whole lot. My college project, I did a blowing with a straw project, so I've been blowing with a straw for a while. It's okay, right? If that's all you can do, and it's kind of a fun thing, you can try that. I'm going to do a little bit with the alcohol and see if I can move this again. Let me get a little color in there. So you can, I like to So you do get a little bit bigger of a blow. So that's kind of a nice thing. All right, so but there are options if you can't use the straw. If there is alcohol ink in a little spray bottle, it's kind of fun to add. I was just smelling that there to make sure. I can do a little spray and give some really awesome texture. So if I have like an octopus that I'm doing, look at that really great texture that I just got from that. I can just do an all over. Woo, look at that. Can totally change it in just a matter of seconds. I wanna make sure that this is a really nice one, it's fine. If I get a spray bottle that I'm using my cleaning with, I can, it's gonna have a bigger spray, so be careful, make sure it's on your fine mist, but look at that, it's really, really cool texture, right? It's almost like using your cheesecloth. And I'm gonna show you with the cheesecloth what you can do with that. I had a project once that I did with my class, and I gave them a skewer and they had their alcohol inks, and this is all they could use, and I think maybe a straw too. So they had to paint with this. So you can use your skewers, you can use different surfaces and kind of do lines with this. So I'll show you a little bit with that too. It's really just about playing and, you know, kind of exploring with this, what you can do with it. So I'm gonna open this up. I love when you open this up a little bit, how it kind of gets, some are thin and thick and kind of together a little bit. You can kind of see, woo, there's a stencil from Stencil Girl that looks just like this, but how fun is this if I just do that? Now I'm gonna take my cotton swab, and these are, or cotton squares, these are little wedges, are nice. It's got the color on one side, but I can still use this other side by just putting a little bit of alcohol on here. I'm gonna go over here and get some color, and then I'm just gonna dab it right through. And your color or your gauze is gonna turn a little wet, so if you do any kind of collage, it's really awesome when it's colored to do a little bit of that. You can't really see through to that. Let me try it again. I'm gonna see if I spray it too, what happens. There you go. So that's kind of fun. You can see a little bit more of the cheesecloth. Cheesecloth's really fun to play with. All right, so let's see what else I've got. These little stencils here, I'm gonna try that. It's kind of nice with the stencils too. I could use it as a background, or I can go over something that I already did. So if I have a center of a flower, I can put that smack dab in the center. If I'm making a mandala, it's a really awesome way to kind of have your beginning kind of start that way and work your way out. So I had talked about removing some of the color. So I'm actually gonna see I might have too much color under there. Yeah, I put too much. Too much is in my spun. So look at that, that happened. Am I gonna get upset? No, I'm just gonna add a little bit more color and kind of change that up. Life's too short to get upset at something like that, right? Here we go. Whoa, my gosh, this is gonna be fun. Ready? Oh my gosh, it was even better than before. Now I've got this little piece from my cheesecloth. It looks like a little worm. Maybe it's transformation time, and that's my little caterpillar. So I love these little dots. It mimics these little dots over here, and I love if I let this dry a little bit. I can always take a hair dryer to this and let it dry pretty quick. I can also take a piece of photo paper and print with it. To get some of the excess off and kind of pull, woo, and then start from there. So I love the photo paper for printing because now I can, it kind of looks like, but it really just gives a really great, it's this gloss. It really just gives a nice, you know, just a nice finish with the gloss on it. So here I can kind of let that work. I can add more colors. I can add Sharpies. And then with the photo paper, I'm gonna just show you this a little bit. And And I talked about using a little hand sanitizer, so I'm gonna do that. Because I love it on, and the stacks of the photo paper come pretty cheap, right? So I did a little red, white, and blue. God bless America. There we go. We're gonna pull this through. And I can take this and kind of pull some of the colors out. Almost like when you add ink and some shaving cream. I can pull this in here. There's a lot of blue on here, everybody. Wow. Ooh, look at that red's coming in there. All right, so I'm gonna lift it with another piece of photo paper and sees what happens. So this can be kind of a prompt. Look at it, looks like a landscape. Here's some trees coming up. I can paint with that, or I can keep printing. Look at that. Oh my gosh, do you see the little head of something there? Nice. So, oh my gosh, it does. Look, it looks like a dog sitting. See his back and his nose and his eyes, and he's looking down. Perhaps I'm gonna lick my foot. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So this is kind of a fun base. I can take this and put some stencils over it. This one, I don't know about that, but we'll see what we can do with it, right? I'm gonna take this little stencil of mine and I'm gonna do it right over there. I'm gonna take, this one has a little bit of blue on it, but that's okay. That might be, let's see what happens here. You see my workspace? It's called Organized Chaos. It's a lovely thing. So when your husband at home says, oh my gosh, what a mess, just say it's organized chaos and I'm having a lot of fun. So look at, I'm gonna come down, this color's a little bit lighter. See if it's pulling off any color a little bit. See? So you can kind of see if I keep working on it. You can kind of see it's working, right, with that little background there. So, and I love this little background. So it's just kind of a fun thing. I'm going to show you really quick with just, I have this little background. I can do a little bit more. Ooh, look at that color coming through. So I can kind of keep going with this background that I have. And the photo paper, you might want to put a little bit of tape down on your edges, like painter's tape. It does arch when you do it, or just put your finger. All right, so I can kind of keep going with that and kind of have fun with it. If there's any spot that I don't want to put color, I can always take my black pen and color it out. If I do any black, my colors really pop, which I love. So I can go like that and get rid of that. If I am sending a card and it's Christmas, I can always take my white gel pen and add some words in here, peace, love, hope, or anything like that. If it's to a certain age, happy 8th. So you can use this, get rid of the white, bring out some black, and then use your gel pen right in here to add a little bit of note on top of your card. So that's kind of a fun thing if I wanted to do. And anytime I do like words, I always make it pretty big. And if you're going through a hard time right now, just playing with this and then adding words, giving yourself a little self-love, adding words that you want to see every day. And then definitely this would be refrigerator worthy, anything that you make. So you can put some words that you're going to see every day, opening up the refrigerator, knowing that you're loved, you've got peace within, you know, whatever words resonate with you. Okay? All right. Does anybody else have any other questions?
There was one question that came up. Do you try to avoid the thick ink areas?
Do I avoid to with what? As far as
Do you try to avoid the thick ink areas? I'm not sure. Carol, if you want to elaborate.
is that
on
Carol?
Yeah.
So you mean like with this thick area, or sometimes it just happens? And you can see that this is already soaked in, so I added a little bit of alcohol to this and it did nothing because it is photo paper. See how it goes through to the other side? Okay, so where it builds up. So where it builds up, yeah, so I don't need to avoid it, but I could always take color away. So if I have, I had that one little, so this right here, I had a lot of green here, so I added some alcohol ink and I pulled these out. So if there's any kind of little buildup, I can always pull this little area out and make some swirls and get rid of that buildup. Always lightening up. I can take some of my alcohol on here and kind of get rid of that. Sometimes you just want to, you know, this has a little bit of buildup. The blues and the purples, for whatever reason, always leave a dark edge, but you can always paint those out and soften it up with just your watercolor or just your paintbrush using alcohol, like instead of water, and pulling that out.
I want to ask, how do you use the alcohol ink pad?
Okay, yeah, so the ink pad, I don't have any stencils with me here, but the ink pad is just taking not a stencil, a stamp, pressing this stamp into this, and then I would go onto my colored area, and it's going to remove the color and leave that stamp. So I can go see, yeah, I don't really have any stamps here. But it's just a lift ink. They have it in the lift ink also in like little bottles like this. It's basically just alcohol on a stamp pad, and then you take your stamp and put it wherever you have some dark colors, and it's going to remove the color and leave it white, probably in the purples. It'll leave it pink, but you'll see it. So. All right, so, well, that's fun, you guys. That was it. I think we are done. I gave you some little how-tos and what to work with, and some of the things that you might have at home. You know, you can do that. And again, make sure that you wipe your little caps off. You could even just take a little alcohol pad. You can get those by the box. You could even use just a baby wipe to get those cleaned off. I wouldn't run that through the sink at all, but you can just kind of run it through. Or like I said, if it's too tricky, those wearing gloves, lovely. You've got a nice little gripper. And then also you can do, you know, just under a warm sink. So it is so nice to have you here today. Any other questions before we go? I miss you too, Laura. All right, well, thank you so much. I hope all of you are hooked on alcohol inks. Go out and have fun. And if you ever have any questions, you could always email me here at LivingWell. So you can always contact me or give me a call. So I would love to answer any questions. Thank you, Carol. Always good to hear that you're around. Nice. Take care, my friends.